Hello, Red Wave. Welcome to Bulldogs podcast. This is our get to know episode for the Wyoming Cowboys, or in their neck of the woods, I think they call themselves the Pokes. But to get to know them better, we have Cody Tucker from 7220 Sports, and also my co-host and friend Caleb Pletz is here as well. Before we get to you real quick, I just got to plug the channel. So we're Beware Bulldogs on YouTube, Beware_Bulldogs on X. Cody, thank you for joining us. I know you're running all over the place, so thanks for taking time out of your day for doing this. How's everything going in your neck of the woods in Wyoming?
I appreciate you guys having me. First of all, man, it's a beautiful, picturesque sunset, 60 degrees. Leaves are changing. Probably gonna have some snow here directly. So not Saturday, but probably shortly after.
And I have to ask, are you a Phillies fan?
just a tad. I wasn't wearing red and blue for you guys, I assure you.
Well, Cody, how is what's the overall feeling in the fan base right now in Laramie or all Wyoming? Because there's really only one school in Wyoming. But how's the fan base feeling right now? You guys are off to a pretty good start. It looks, from my aspect, it looks like you guys are killing it right now.
Yeah, I think people are kind of pessimistic, to be honest with you. I think some people are excited, but we've seen this play out before. We've seen the good, fast starts. And I just think that Craig Bull's been here for 10 years now, and the fans haven't seen it. And it's kind of I think everybody's kind of in prove-it mode, especially with Fresno State coming to town. Obviously the Bulldogs have won 4 straight, and they've done it in pretty much dominant fashion, outscoring the Cowboys 87-10, 11 straight scoreless quarters against Fresno. So I think people are kind of in absolute wait-and-see mode. But after this one, if the Cowboys can find a way, Air Force on the road next week, which obviously is just a few hours down the road, I think you'd see a gigantic contingency going down to Colorado Springs, which they always do. But and the Cowboys traditionally play Air Force really well. But once you get over the Fresno State hump, I think people will start maybe believing a little more.
Okay. Yeah. When it comes to Wyoming and your play style, give me your thought on how they're going to approach the game against Fresno, because from what I've seen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you guys do a really good job of running between the tackles. Your O-line and running back have been awesome. Even against your loss in Texas, they had some big runs.
Yeah.
Do they stick to that? Is that their identity, and that's how they're going to beat teams, or are they going to mix it up, you think, against Fresno State?
They're going to beat their head against the wall trying to run the football. That's what they do. That's what Craig's done here. Even when Josh Allen was here, I mean, Brian Hill was dynamic. He went nuts on Fresno State one night up there in the Valley, and they still ran the ball a ton, even when they had Josh. I mean, that's just the identity. It's really, Craig always likes to say that it's the identity of the state, the toughness, the weather, the whole nine. Just if you need to get a yard, they're going to pick up a yard. So they have a really special running back right now in Harrison Whaley that they got out of the transfer portal from Northern Illinois. They saw firsthand what he could do. I believe he gashed the Cowboys for about 179 in DeKalb a couple of years ago. So when they saw he entered the portal, they jumped all over him. And really, the Cowboys are going to run it and run it and run it again. However, last week against New Mexico, I was really impressed with the game plan. Tim Polasek, the offensive coordinator, he came out throwing the ball. The week previous, Andrew Peasley was 5 of 15 for 31 yards in a win over Appalachian State. They really got him going and got him in rhythm early, and it was really nice to see. He was 7-7 to start the game, and real short, effective passing game. So I expect maybe a little bit of both, but you can't ever get it twisted. They're going to run the ball between the tackles, and Fresno State, I believe, is ranked 16th in the country against the run. But fellas, I'm pretty confident in saying they haven't seen a running game like Wyoming's yet.
Yeah, you're 100% right there, Cody. This is like the first game that I think we've really been worried about. Like, I obviously going up against Purdue early, there's a lot of unknowns there, but also in week 1, you can kind of get away with a lot because, not a lot of film on, either side. So I think from the fan perspective, at least Caleb and I are very worried about how Wyoming is going to control the ball, control the clock against Fresno State, and especially We're curious to see how the trenches, the battle in the trenches goes. I mean, are there any key players on offense for Wyoming that besides Whaley, the running back, that really have been a difference maker, or someone who can make a difference in the game against Fresno State?
Yeah, as far as skill position, Ira Asante is another guy they picked up out of the portal, and it feels weird to even say that, guys, because Craig Bowl was so anti-transfer portal when it first started, and now here we are talking about the impact guys on this offense that came out of the portal, because the narrative is Wyoming gets killed by the portal, which they do lose quite a few, and they lose a lot to Power 5 teams, but they're bringing in their fair share as well. Ira Asante is a guy who played 4 years at Holy Cross, wide receiver, really quick. If you guys watched highlights of the game last week against the Lobos, he caught about a 4-yard pass and turned it into a 66-yard touchdown, cutting across the green a couple times and waiting for a convoy. So he's a special player. Wyatt Whelan, another possession type of receiver on the outside. He's been steady Eddie the last few years. And then you got big tight ends in John Michael Gillenborg and Trayton Welch. They've been making a ton of plays. But as far as this offense goes, it all starts with those guys up front. Big Frank Crumbs moved to left tackle. He's 6'8", 315 pounds, definite pro prospect kind of guy. A lot of the game goes through him, especially the passing game. But on the other side, Caden Barnett, the guy who stepped in at right tackle, a lot of runs over behind him and Jack Walsh. Also, Nafoa Tulafono there in the middle. He's the big center, and that's where their veterans are, I guess, on that offensive line. So they've been playing really well. It was an unproven line coming in. They're giving Peasley plenty of time. They're obviously opening holes for Harrison Whaley. And Whaley I don't know if you guys have watched any highlights of him. He missed the first 2 weeks because he had knee surgery in the offseason. He's already rushed for more than 100 yards in all 3 games against Texas, App State, and New Mexico. And he's done it in impressive fashion. I mean, his second handoff of the season was a 66-yard touchdown against Texas, and he outraced their secondary. It wasn't even kind of close. So the guy's really special. If you get him to the second level, if Texas can't catch him, I'd say most people are in trouble. However, New Mexico did catch him last week, which was nothing short of a miracle, but the kid's really special.
Yeah, and he's a good size, too, from what I can tell.
Pounds. Yeah, he's a load. He's 200 pounds for sure, but he can flat get it, man. Cowboys have always had awesome running backs in the Craig Bowl era, but this guy is kind of the first real home run hitter we've seen since Brian Hill, and this guy can really hit it.
Yeah, he's making a case for me to draft him in my Devi Dynasty League now. So,
he'd be a secure pick.
Yeah. Now, what about on the defensive side of the ball? We've heard all the talk about Gibbs, but I know there's some other players on that defense too. You could talk about Gibbs if you like, but who should the Red Wave know about going into this game on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, the guys in the middle. Craig Bowl always talks about a good baseball team's made with up the middle, with the second baseman, shortstop, center fielder, and your catcher, and that's kind of where the Cowboys start at defensive tackle. Cole Goodbow and Jordan Bertinoli, those guys are. I really have no problem saying it. They're the best defensive tackles in the Mountain West Conference, if not west of the Mississippi. They really set the tone up there, and they're veteran, man. They're guys who've been starters for 3 years, 4 years in Goodbow's case. Really good players. And then on the defensive end, they suffered a couple injuries, so we're not exactly sure who's going to be out there on Saturday night, but they roll guys in left and right, and that's the biggest difference with this Cowboys team. There's a lot of depth. And that's something that they haven't had in a long time. It's so weird, guys, in the portal era, and I don't know if you've seen it in Fresno, but the Cowboys were the 3rd youngest team in the United States last year. Now they're one of the oldest teams in the United States. That's how weird and how quick it happens. And the defense is loaded with a ton of talent. I think Colby Taylor, a cornerback out there, and Ja'Cory Hawkins, they've played really well. And Wyatt Eckler was just named the defensive player of the week in the Mountain West. He had 2 sacks, including a strip sack last week. Should have had 3 sacks. And poor Dylan Hopkins, man, they didn't blow the whistle quick enough, and Eckler came around the edge and absolutely murdered him. So didn't get credit for it, but don't tell Dylan Hopkins that. He never came back in the game after that hit. So the defense is where, and Easton Gibbs is obviously the catalyst for all of it, and Shea Suianoa, his running mate at linebacker. And Rook Brown, a nickelback. He already has 4 turnovers to his credit this year. 3 picks, a huge pick to seal the game against App State, huge pick against Texas Tech to really get the Cowboys going in that one. So that's where the strength really lies. And when we came into the season, that's where we thought, this defense could be really special. And to be honest, they haven't even clicked yet.
Got it. So I got a question for you, Cody. So far this season, Fresno State's running game has struggled. And so most of the success and moving the offense down the field has been passing. And so, I mean, how do you see that matchup between the Fresno State receivers and the Wyoming secondary?
So I'm not 100% if this is what they're going to do, fellas, but Craig Bull has been a staunch 4-down lineman, 2 linebackers, Tampa 2 kind of defense. However, when you face Texas Tech in the opener and then Texas 2 weeks later, those are prolific passing programs out of the Big 12 that go nuts. And they've been compared to that'd be the Fresno State, right, of the Mountain West. And the Cowboys actually were dropping 8 more times than not, rushing only 3, dropping 8. They muddied stuff up so badly. Quinn Ewers didn't even have 80 or 70 passing yards after 3 quarters at Austin. He was completely out of sync all night long, looked miserable. And then toward the second half, Tyler Shuck, the quarterback at Tech, he looked like a mess too. He was throwing incompletions left and right, and just they muddied up the waters on the back end so much. They didn't get much of a pass rush, obviously, but they muddied stuff up so badly that they didn't do much in the passing game. So to be honest with you, everybody wants to start with stopping the run, right? If the Cowboys feel confident they can stop the run, I think they'll give a little on that end just to muddy things up on the back end like they did against those 2 teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that too. And a lot of the corners, I mean, they were lining up 5-10 yards deep, a big cushion, and nobody could find success against that. We talked last night, and I said, we're just going to have to kind of take what you give us because so sound defensively. It's going to be very interesting matchup. I can't wait. I'm a little nervous because I don't think we've seen a team this good, but I can't wait.
Guys, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, last year, that Wyoming team you guys saw was a shell of itself. I mean, they lost that game. First of all, they were a shell of themselves because half the roster was injured. Second of all, losing a heartbreaker to Boise State like that with the Mountain Division on the line, the turn of events at the end was just they said all the right things the week leading up, but we knew. To be honest with you, I didn't even go on that trip, which is weird. I go on every trip, but it just seemed like basketball was supposed to be good, by the way. So that's another reason I stayed behind. But we knew that was going to be a team that it had the potential to be a 30-0 type of situation, and that's exactly what it was. I mean, that was not a Craig Bowl team. That was not a Wyoming football team at all. So it should be a whole new ball game this year, you would imagine.
Oh, yeah. And I heard Craig Bowl say some things about this game in his press conference about the boys on the team. This is the game they want. More than any game, they want this game because of the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
no doubt. And Frank Crum put it to me like this. We didn't show up last year, and we were disinterested the year before. And he's really taking it personal because of COVID, we got all these weird, awkward old guys that have been around for forever. And Frank was even there the last time as a redshirt freshman, the last time they played Fresno before that in Fresno, which was a 7-3 debacle. So he's 0 for 3 against the Bulldogs, and he knows he's been around enough to know that they haven't won a lot of these big games in conference play. They've popped off and beat Missouri. They've popped off and beat Texas Tech in non-conference play, but they have not, since Josh Allen beat Boise State and San Diego State in 2016, you can't really circle a big conference game that this team has won.
How much are you relying on Peasley this game? Because this is what I'm thinking. Fresno State goes all out to stop the run. Then Peasley's going to have to make some plays either out of play action or maybe pulling the ball and keeping it, because I've seen him do that a couple times. Are you going to rely on him a lot, or are we all about the O-line and running back?
Well, I tell you, if history serves us, they're going to beat their head against the wall until they do open some seams and start wearing the team down and start running the football, especially at home, in the elevation and at night. And the crowd and all that stuff. But they have faith. This coaching staff has a lot of faith in Andrew Peasley. And, I just wrote a column about it last week that, hey, this is your starter. People have been screaming for the backup. When Andrew Peasley's 4-0 as a starter this year and 11-5 overall as a starter, he doesn't do it pretty. He doesn't put up the pretty stats, but he'll sure slip out of a tackle in the backfield and pick you up 5, and he'll make the throw in double overtime against Texas Tech when he's got a blitzer in his face. So I think they will, but guys, they're going to rely on Harrison Whaley and this offensive line to wear down Fresno State. They make no secret about what their plan is on a week-to-week basis, and that's it. Basically, here it is. Stop it. Air Force-esque, if you will. It's right here. Stop it.
So I got a question about the third phase of the game in special teams, because obviously Wyoming's kicker Hoyland is perfect so far. So I'm hoping to put a little jinx on him right here by saying that he's perfect. But coming into this game, I mentioned in our preview that I really think that the kicking game is going to be important here in the field position, especially if it's close. So Fresno State's kicking game has struggled a little bit. And obviously, it seems like, at least field goals wise, that's been a strength for Wyoming. But where's the punting game and where's the kicking game right now for the Pokes?
Yeah, you're not going to like this, guys. I've been going on a lot of radio shows this week, and I have this weird feeling John Hoyland has gotten every award and accolade you could ever hope for as a place kicker. However, he's never kicked a game winner at the buzzer. So kind of having this weird premonition. Do not take that to the bank in any way, shape, or form. The guy's special. Coach Bowl likes to brag that he actually coaches the kickers, which means he doesn't do anything, and he leaves John Hoyland alone. And the guy's he's money, and that's exactly what Craig Bowl said this week. So Clayton Stewart, the punter, has, he's had some moments that aren't great, but he's also had some boomers, and he really changed the tide in that App State game, I think. And then obviously special teams basically sealed the deal against the Mountaineers. Devon Harris blocking a last-minute field goal. Ja'Cory Hawkins picking it up, the Ole Miss transfer who runs about 22 miles an hour, takes it down the sideline for the touchdown to take the lead. Unbelievably improbable win there. And then last week, New Mexico goes right down the field on their opening drive. Easy peasy. They go to kick the PAT. Devon Harris blocks it. Ja'Cory Hawkins picks it up, takes it the distance for 2. So they've been making some plays in special teams. They forced a fumble last week. New Mexico recovered it, but they've been pretty damn solid, to be honest with you. A couple of decent returns that they wish they didn't give up, but other than that, solid all the way around. And it starts with John Hoyland and his battery mates. Craig Ball said they're getting the ball off in their operation in 1.19 seconds, which I'm not a kicking guru by any means, fellas, but I think 8 for 8 shows it's pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, that doesn't encourage us at all. That's for sure.
Did you bring me on to encourage you? I hope not.
Now, let's talk about where do you, if I come to you on Sunday and say, hey, Wyoming won, how did they win that game?
That's a great question. The obvious answers, the cliche answers, they didn't turn the ball over, for one. Can't do that. And they were doing that a little bit too much early and often. Turned the ball over twice right off the bat against Texas Tech and went down 17-0. Can't do that against Fresno State for sure. The other weird thing that they've been doing of late is false starts and pre-snap penalties. And that's just not Craig Bowl football at all. So it's really weird to see that. I want to say they had seven penalties against App State and 6 again last week, and that's just bizarre. So obviously you don't want to do those things, but I think you want to say that Harrison Whaley rushed for about $150 at least, which means they controlled the clock, and he's been breaking big ones every week, so I don't think anybody would shock to see him do that. But real clock control, I think you'd see. And then I want to say that Andrew Peasley has a line that says something like 12 of 17 for 140 yards and doesn't turn the ball over and maybe scores on the ground. And you guys got to be absolutely crapping yourself hearing terrible numbers like that. But that's how Wyoming football has been since Josh Allen left, man. They don't they make no bones about it. They are running the football, and they are going to keep trying and trying no matter what it takes. Can you imagine Jay Kaner doing something like that?
I mean, I think really the only game that I remember where his stats were that subpar was 2 years ago at Wyoming, the 17-0 game. I think he only had like 90 passing yards.
Yeah, 93 passing yards. And if you would have told me that on Sunday, I would have said, man, Wyoming kicked their ass. Certainly did not. That did not happen.
Now let's switch it. Now, Wyoming loses on Saturday, and you're finding out on Sunday. What happened?
Andrew Peasley completed 40% of his balls and threw a couple of picks, including one that probably turned into points immediately, if not soon thereafter. Any kind of points allowed on special teams. I mean, last year they had two punts blocked at Fresno State. That's unheard of kind of football, man. And no mistakes like that. No mistakes like that. If Fresno State won the game, I'm a believer this is going to be a really close game. But I'm also smart enough to know that Wyoming can't make any kind of crazy mistakes, because Fresno State is a championship football team. They're the defending Mountain West champs. They've been in the trenches. They know how to pull things out, and they know how to figure it out and win games. And this Cowboys team is learning how to do that. So you can't make those kind of mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Offensively, how can Fresno State take advantage of this really good Wyoming defense?
There are some holes. Some guys have had some decent success throwing the football. My big worry, I guess, in this one, guys, is defensive end wise. We don't know if Sebastian Harsh is back. We don't know if Braden Siders is back. Those are two starting defensive ends. Devon Harris has been the most successful defensive end, but if you can chip him or put a tight end on that side of the formation, you can slow him down, and then the Cowboys are going to have to worry or rely on Kevin Shoegreen and Tice Westland, a couple of youngsters who played a lot of snaps last week and are really just now getting their feet wet. So that could be a detriment, not getting to the passer and having to blitz more and leaving more lanes open in the middle for the passing game. I mean, the Cowboys are definitely worried about Fresno State's passing game, as they should be. So you really want to get pressure on him and get Keen off his spot, and it's going to be harder to do that without a couple of studs on the edge.
There we go. Yeah, now definitely. I'm a little encouraged. That's how we get it back.
Yeah, and the offensive line has been a weakness for Fresno State so far this year, and several teams, previous opponents have really had success with blitzing up the middle, delayed blitzes too. But so far, Fresno State has been able to utilize tight ends blocking on the edge. So yeah, if that is where the strength is, I think they might be able to scheme it up. But you also mentioned the strength of the tackles up front, so that is still keeping me a little bit concerned.
Yeah, this defense overall is salty, and like I said, guys, they haven't put a complete game together in any of the phases yet this year. And I asked Craig Bohl that in his press conference this week. How encouraged.
Ruh-roh.
Oh, and there goes Cody. The group of five internet strikes on Laramie. Hang on.
All right, we're back.
He's back.
I'm in Cheyenne. We should have plenty of the whatever that internet stuff is called here.
It happens to us all the time. We call it G5 Wi-Fi.
There you go.
Okay. Where were we? What were we talking about?
Just how Craig Bohl, his team has not played a complete clean game in any of the three phases yet this year. And really, you got to look at that as an encouraging thing, because they're still putting W's up. If they weren't, then you'd be a little terrified. But they haven't done it yet, guys. They just have not played a complete perfect game on. And it's never going to be perfect, obviously, but a complete game on in any of the three phases. There's always a punt that only went 30 yards, and App State's automatically in field goal range, and obviously the turnovers on offense and the pre-snap penalties and stuff like that. And then the defense they gave up a lot of yards late against New Mexico last week. They also played a lot of new guys. There was a lot of new faces in the defense. And honestly, I think they thought they had that one put to bed anyway. Same can be said for the Portland State game. And, the number, I believe they're 79th overall in total defense. that's not factual. It's the way they've played so far, but it's not factual for what we expect from this defense.
Mm-hmm. All right. Can you make a final game day prediction score? I don't want to get you in trouble if you can't.
Yeah, no, I put it out today. I put it out every week like a moron and put myself wide open for people to bash me. I'm like I said, guys, I think John Hoyland's got every accolade under the sun except for that game winner. And I just have this weird feeling that John Hoyland's going to kick a game winner. My final prediction is 27-24, setting up a gigantic matchup in Colorado Springs next Saturday night against the Air Force Falcons in the most underrated rivalry in the Mountain West Conference.
Well, now, what makes it the most underrated? And what I mean, it is because I don't hear about this this rivalry. Well, tell us about this rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, it's right down the road for one. Wyoming people in general rule of thumb is hate Colorado, hate everything about Colorado, except the Broncos and like Coors Original, like I drink nonstop. All the good stuff in Coors comes from Wyoming, though. We just use their water. So and their manpower, their employees, I guess. No, Colorado, I grew up in Cheyenne. I'm a Cheyenne guy. I'm 17 miles from the Colorado border. There is no love loss whatsoever, especially with Colorado State. But the Air Force game has always been tight. And it's only, I believe Air Force has a 3-game lead in the overall series. I asked Troy Calhoun at Mountain West Media Days every year, like, you ready to call this a rivalry yet? And he will not do it because they have Navy and they have Army and, all those pillow fights. This one is anything but a pillow fight. Wyoming and Air Force. If you ask Wyoming players, the fans hate Colorado State, bar none. BYU as well. That has not been forgotten either. But if you ask players, a lot of players say, I hate Air Force more than anybody. They dive at your knees the whole game. They're kind of dirty. They're kind of dirty. So, but it's a really good rivalry where there's respect on both sides, but there's also been big moments and crazy moments. If you haven't Googled Dave Christensen yelling at Troy Calhoun after the game against Air Force when he got fined, I believe $50,000 or $100,000, I would suggest you watch that. There's really no love loss.
Wow, well that's interesting insight because at least for the West or the former West side of the conference, sometimes some of the mountain matchups, if we don't see a team for a couple of years, like I think Fresno State hasn't faced Colorado State in a long time, so like sometimes we just aren't real privy to some of those matchups that are annual occurrences.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way about Fresno State. I think I heard you guys have a traveling trophy with San Jose State?
Yep.
Yeah.
I had no idea until I saw that, and I was super embarrassed that I didn't know that. Covering this league for 5 years, I had no clue. Are you guys even close to San Jose? I've been there for a game, but I haven't been to Fresno yet.
About 3 hours.
Okay.
Drive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing in Wyoming. We can do that all day long with our eyes closed.
So speaking of driving, Cody, so if any of the Fresno State fans are making the trip up to this game at War Memorial, maybe they're coming through Cheyenne or in Laramie, are there any places, maybe a restaurant or something that they should check out while they're there?
Yeah, there's a great place everywhere is great in Laramie because it's a lot of hometown restaurants, a lot of locally owned stuff. In Cheyenne, I hate to say it, this is my hometown and I love it more than anything, but we have a terrible chain problem going on here. As I'm sitting here at Old Chicago getting ready to go in. There are great places in Laramie though. Born in a Barn, peanut butter and jelly wings at Born in a Barn. Okay. Guy Fieri did his whatever his show is called.
Oh no.
Check that out. He did that there. He went to a few places in Laramie, so it's just good local stuff. And then I'm a beer snob in the totally opposite way. I only drink Coors, so you never want to ask me about anywhere to find any of that hippie crap with the orange on the glass. That ain't me.
But I bet the Coors Original has got to be extra fresh.
It is
up there.
It's always fresh in my fridge. I know that. What do you guys drink in California? A little bit of everything.
Oh yeah.
The crap with the orange on the glass.
We drink grape juice out here.
Hey, you know what? I always heard the Valley's like more like not California-ish. So I really want to go there. Obviously, we had Josh Allen from Firebaugh and had Sean Chambers from Kerman, and heard a lot of cool stuff. They really were proud to be from the Central Valley and really spoke highly of it. So I really am looking forward to getting out there one day.
Yeah, those are men right there. I played high school sports against Josh Allen and watched Sean Chambers. He was a couple of years behind us in school in Pee Wee football in Kerman. That's actually my hometown. So we know
nice.
this. I watched them play a little bit. So no, Wyoming got the guys in the Valley that I watched. So there's a little piece of me that is a little jealous of Wyoming for taking those guys, but
Fresno's got to be kicking their ass for not giving Josh Allen a try, don't they? I mean, what are you doing?
Well, that was the prior regime that we don't speak about anymore. So yes, we definitely have given plenty of grief to the prior coaching staff.
Well, I think you guys have figured out the quarterback position pretty damn well. So nothing to cry about there for sure. You guys have just pumped out one after another, and couple of Carr brothers that have done some pretty special things too.
That's true. Yeah, no complaints from me now. But Cody, thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you get into where Chicago. What'd you put? Old Chicago?
Off I go to drink Coors at Old Chicago.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great one. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, Cody.
See ya.
Yeah. All right.